Hello, everybody. Another special guest. They're piling up now. Today we have AJ Morris with us. How you doing, AJ?
I'm absolutely fine. Thank you very much for having me, mate. You've
No
got
problem.
some amazing guests on so far, so I'm excited to chat.
I'm trying, man. Do you know what I've learned? Yeah, I've learned since doing this podcast that a lot of people respect me more than I thought they did. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm not
Oh,
very,
they
I'm
should.
not,
They
I'm not
should.
very,
I
I'm not
do.
very well known. I'm not very well known on social media. So to me, it's like I didn't expect a lot of people to say yes. Like I've got guys lined up already after you and that kind of thing. And they're guys that I haven't even spoken to in person, but they know who I am and stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's really like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It just makes me feel good.
Humbling.
Yeah. It's a massive compliment. It's a massive compliment.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. So the guys who are watching who don't know who you are, which won't be many, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. So I'm 27. I grew up down south in Brighton. I recently, sort of over the last few years, have moved kind of up north. So I'm located, which is near Ultraflex in Sheffield. I've been in the fitness industry since 2013, 2014, and I very quickly got thrown into coaching competitors because one of my closest friends who I coached for my one of my first sort of kind of clients in person as a training partner, he wanted to do a show and he didn't want anyone else to coach him apart from myself. So despite me trying to outsource and recommend him other coaches, he really wanted me.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the best things that could ever happen to me because it built my confidence really, like, kind of straight out of the gate. And his prep went super well, and it kind of just it led from there. And ever since sort of 2014, I've been gathering momentum as a natural bodybuilding coach. That's what my kind of niche and priority is coaching natural bodybuilders only. I have had a few assisted clients along the way, but that's been situations where other people's been handling the PED side, and I've been handling the training nutrition. Typically, that's been people that have worked with me naturally as well, and then they've kind of just wanted me to be a part of that process. But it's not something that I want to do moving forwards. I want to be solely a natural coach because it's my forte. It's where I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
As not just a coach, but as an athlete, I started competing in 2014 as well. I did seasons as a teenager in 2014, 2015. Then took a year off in 2016, came back as a junior in 2017. 2017 was probably one of my best years. I didn't really win anything as a teen.
Yeah.
I placed well in qualifiers. I won a BNBF Midlands qualifier as a teenager. Didn't end up ever placing in the British final as a teen, which, to be fair, is now kind of, not to say that that was special or anything, but it's now kind of unheard of because there's not very often more than 5 competitors in teen lineups
Oh yeah, you're right.
at the finals. But there was, 2015, I think there was 16 of us at the BNBF British finals. So if you made top 5, you were good. You were
Yeah.
really good. So, but that was what I needed because when I was young, if I'd have got straight to winning, I think that would have potentially made me more complacent.
Yeah.
So it kind of made me a better athlete. It made me want to really improve and find out more. How can I beat these people? How can I be better? 2017, like I said, was one of my better years. That was a really good year, winning qualifiers as a junior. You're placing second to Taf Meiji at the BNBF British Finals as a junior. And then winning the UK FBA, going on to Worlds, winning the World. So that was kind of like a year where I thought, okay, I can actually be semi-decent at this.
Yeah.
I've got something here that I can work on.
Yeah.
Came back in 2020. Obviously, that season was COVID year. That was my first jump into the men's open.
Yeah.
Met Flex at the finals, and man, he was incredible. So again, another point in my career which I needed to be beaten at that point, because if I'd have gone straight into the open and won my first attempt, I think that wouldn't have done me any favors.
Yeah.
So I came back in 2021 and won that sort of British title in the open category, in the open men's. So yeah, I think, that's me as an athlete. Like I said, I think the take home from that for maybe some listeners is just, the self-improvement aspects of bodybuilding. It's actually important to have losses.
Yeah.
It's important to maybe have some time where you don't do well straight out the gate.
Yeah.
And that's something that nowadays people just want to be kind of a one and done situation. They do their first season, they get a pro card, and everything sort of comes quickly. And for some people it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But for some people it doesn't. I have several different tries to get to their top goals. But anyway, that's me as an athlete. And then alongside coaching, obviously run Natural Bodybuilding Worldwide, which is a membership-based website, which is trying to just basically get natural bodybuilding as big as possible and help educate people and kind of motivate people along the way and give natural athletes kind of a bit more of a platform to share their journey and feel a bit more recognized in a world where at the moment, let's be honest, like it's getting bigger, but it's, still nowhere near as recognized as, IFBB side of bodybuilding, the assisted side of the sport, which be lying if I said I don't think we'll ever get to that level, but I'd like to think that it can definitely be more well known, and there can be more opportunities for athletes to, get sponsorships and be part of something that feels like they can then be entwined with the sport for a little longer, perhaps, and not have to go down the route of going to the assisted side because of monetary value or financial opportunities or whatever it may be. So, that's kind of a long-winded wrap up of who I am, but it gives you a little bit of a background as to what I've done so far.
No, I like it. I like people who say a lot because I get to dissect a lot, and that's what I like to do. I like to listen and then dissect. So we'll start on your last point because I will probably forget, whereas you as an athlete, obviously that's a lot of this is what I'm interested in. So in terms of from your point of view, so I'll describe my point of view, which is quite it doesn't run that deep. Like I've seen the infrastructure you've managed to create within natural bodybuilding, where, like I said, like you said, you're sponsoring shows now. You've got your brand, you've got your platform, Natural Bodybuilding Worldwide. Obviously, you know what I mean. Everyone who knows you already knows about all of that. My thing with natural bodybuilding, I don't know what it would take to get it to the level of IFBB Pro status. So when I look at the IFBB Pro status of things, so much of it is the athletes. And obviously, as natural bodybuilders, we can't be the freaks that they can, obviously. But why I've so part of my reason for starting this podcast and doing what I'm doing and getting guests on who are natural or who have maybe not natural anymore, but have roots in the natural game. That's where they started. They made a decent name for themselves, and then they decided to push on. Whatever, is because I would like to, whatever little help I can give with my following, I would like to put on the map. And I do have a lot of people come up to me now going, "Oh, I've seen your podcast. And again, massive compliment to me because I don't have many followers in general. So I'm like, listen, I love it. So when you look at the state, I don't want to say state because it makes it seem negative. When you look at the status of natural bodybuilding versus IFBB, what do you think would be needed other than the quality of athlete, which we're just not going to be able to get? What do you think would help close that gap from your point of view?
I think first and foremost, it's like opportunity and it's eyes. I think a lot of people go down the assisted route personally as an athlete, and then people follow it as a fan or a spectator because of the already existing eyes.
Right.
It's like you could kind of use the comparison of when you're scrolling through Instagram and the post has 10,000 likes, you're likely to double tap just because 10,000 other people have.
100%.
Whereas if someone's got 5 likes, you're going to look at the post and think, do I actually want to like that?
Yeah.
It's like eyes on something makes a massive difference. So the more eyes that we get on natural bodybuilding, the more people that we get sharing athletes or showing how, cool it is to look a certain way, whether it's the conditioning we achieve or even just the muscularity that is potential of muscularity in natural bodybuilding, the better. So I think it's an eyes on thing. And to be honest, I think, there's always going to be the people that just don't really care about someone that's 180 pounds on stage or 170 pounds on stage or whatever it is. Like some people just don't care for that. And they just want to see people who are 240, 250 on stage peeled. And like, that's fine. You're never going to be able to change the opinions of those people. But I do think that a lot more people, when they see natural bodybuilding in person at the highest caliber, they actually are pretty overwhelmed as to what some of these guys look like. And it's unfortunate sometimes because I don't think often you can get that through just pictures. I think people being there in person, having bigger venues for bigger shows, so more people are sitting in the seats. And then to fill those seats, we need more marketing. We need federations to be stepping up the game on socials. putting out more content,
Yeah.
being able to drive more fans to actually come and want to watch.
Yeah.
And another example I like to use is that, so for example, like Formula One, a lot more people know Formula One now. The reason why is because Netflix bought buy-in for people through Drive to Survive. And the only reason why you have buy-in for a sport that actually, to be honest, even as a fan, is pretty monotonous and boring sometimes, is because people now follow the people. You know, so if we, like, for example, at the top scene of natural bodybuilding, some of the top pros often actually, they're quite silent on socials, and it's their choice. Some of them have different careers, and that's why they can't do social media all the time. But if we gave, like, for example, with MBW, you know, it's like when an athlete comes on board, all the video content is paid for via MBW. So all of their stuff is, they don't have to search for funding to pay for a video or to put out reels. All they have to do is train, talk through why they train and how they train, show people what they do, and then click accept on a collaboration video, and that's it. And that's then, you know, if they want to fill out their logs and things like that, great. But like, that's how simple it can be for them people to follow, you know, a top pro like Ben or a top pro like Keith or whatever. You know, then that's just getting people in the door and people following people for who they are. So that's what I'm trying to, I guess, kind of work on. And I think once we get that to a certain level, people will buy in a bit more. Not, I don't think it will be as much as IFBB 100%. But
No.
I think it will be definitely a good chunk more, and or even noticing it now where, you know, there is definitely a lot more sort of scope for people to come to shows and spectate. There were good numbers at the World Championships last weekend. I know that shows are starting to sell out some more, and you know, hopefully that spreads across all federations, because as much as when you look at natural bodybuilding worldwide on paper at the moment, like we're only really sort of like I must admit, we're only really heavily involved sponsorship wise with UK FBA. Like my goal is to get to a point financially where we can help a lot of different federations and expand more. You know, right now that tie has been a great opportunity for us. Obviously, myself, I'm very closely linked to the UK FBA, so it's been quite an easy way for us to get that ball rolling and also build a relationship, because when money's involved, there needs to be relationships. So as I build more relationship and trust for everyone else involved, then I foresee MBW being sponsors for loads of other natural federations, whether it be here in the UK or away in the States or Europe or whatever it may be. So, but we've only been going for a year, so we just got to gather a bit of momentum to get that kind of opportunity and also sponsor more people and get more athletes on board as well.
I think you've done massive things with NBW anyway. I think in the year's time, you've done massive things. I see you guys all over my Explore page. Obviously, I follow a lot of the guys associated with NBW, so I'll see you on my timeline anyway. But I see so much going on. And when I saw you basically sponsor a UK DFBA show, I was like, yeah, they're making bigger strides than I've seen so many people make in the promotion side of the sport. We know we've got the athletes. We know we have the athletes, but right. A major issue I see. Wait, let me start from here first, and then I'll go on my rant and gradually get there. So first thing, the podcast. When I went on holiday to Egypt, maybe a month or two ago now, about a couple months ago now, probably, I was bombarded with people. Oh my God, Big Ramy, just shouting bodybuilders' names at me. And so I'm just a natural 5'5" bodybuilder. I'm not that big. Like, you know what I mean? And they are going crazy. I kid you not, AJ. I think I left Egypt. I posted while I was out there. And it's something to do with being on their Wi-Fi or something. The algorithm swaps. It goes from UK to Middle East and Africa.
Yeah.
And I'm like picking up 15 followers a day out there. I'm like, what is going on? I'm loving it. I'm posting as often as possible so I get as many as I can. I think I left there with like, I kid you not, I was out there 2 weeks. I think I left there with about 100 extra followers. And I did every single one was Middle Eastern, Arabic name, this, that, this. I'm like, what is going on? Everyone who sees you in public love you. They just love you. What you said is key. The personality that is attached to a brand is more important than that's what builds the brand.
Yes.
That's what makes or breaks a brand. And like I said, with NBW, you see the face of the athlete. When you guys post, you see the face of the athlete first.
Yep.
A major reason why I went the podcast route, I said it on my first episode or second episode of OPO. The podcast game is very oversaturated. I understand that. I'm not necessarily doing this to make money whatsoever. I have money in other things that I do. This takes minimal time for me, and I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to you. I enjoy talking to people. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, we're all on the same boat trying to achieve the same thing. We want to be great athletes, and whatever comes with that, comes with that. But we all want to just be great bodybuilders. So male, female, young, old, doesn't matter. But we're all on the same page. So, and one thing I also learned is for me and for other people, for me, I started getting significantly more followers in the UK when I started putting out speaking content. When people got to my character and personality, I think they probably looked and went, oh shit, he's completely different to what I thought he would be like. When I started this podcast, I'm getting a lot more people DM me now, asking me questions for advice and this and that, because they're like, oh, he seems more approachable. Before, I will admit, when I train, I'm not the most approachable person. I'm in my zone and I zone out. Yeah, that's just me. But I think people, again, they pick up on your personality and they enjoy it. And that's one thing I've picked up from doing podcasts with people that I didn't know personally prior to this. Adam Powell's a great one. Never spoken to Adam in my life. I've been a big fan of his physique for a very long time. I asked him on here, get into a conversation, and you're like, me and him are very similar in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? And the way we think, we're very similar. Very pleasant guy. Love him.
Yeah.
I want to go up to Cambridge soon and train at Le Coach with him. I'm going to shout
100%.
at some point. But I've got a lot going on at the moment, so I can't do it right now. But I'm towards the end of the year, I plan on going up there. And these are things that I had to step back and go, Gene, why do you like the people you like in the sport? Dorian Yates is great. Dorian Yates' approach is great. Quiet, phantom, go away, do the work, come back, smoke everybody. That's how I am in prep. But what I'm starting to realize is in the off season, if that's how you're going to be in prep, because I don't think I'm going to change, I will admit. I just like zoning out in prep. But in the off season, if I can be as personable as possible, when I go quiet and I'm putting out content that isn't necessarily showing skin, people will still be.
Have to. Yeah.
You don't have to. And I notice with your content, you don't show a lot of skin ever.
Yeah.
But the content you put out is still very engaging. And that's kind of what I'm learning. I'm looking at you, I'm looking at Adam, I'm looking at guys in the BNBF and other guys who are on social media often. And I'm like, they don't have to do that to get the eyes on them. So why should I have to do that to get the eyes on me? And I don't. And I don't show skin often anyway. If you go through my Instagram, it's all just throwbacks from prep. I don't really show skin. Yeah. But yeah. So the personality side of things is a massive one. Number two, which is my gripe with natural bodybuilding, IFBB, I don't want to use the term monopolize because it makes it seem like they've bullied companies and bought companies and all this stuff, and they haven't. But they've monopolized bodybuilding. It's them and it's IFBB Elite Pro. Now, Elite Pro are only relevant to Europeans. Let's just be honest. North Americans are not coming over here to be IFBB Elite Pros. They're not. IFBB run the show. The problem we have in natural bodybuilding across, I would say, Europe in general, UK and Europe in general, everyone's too separate. Why are we not merging at least the biggest federations together? Keep your own identities. Yeah, we did it with my company that I work for in my 6 to 6. Like we just bought a company. I'm not gonna say their names on that GDPR, all that crap. We've just bought a company. Companies moved over. A few guys have left because they didn't like the merge, but generally speaking, we're fine. We've now got £5 million of extra business. They're smaller than we were. So we've taken on their £5 million of extra business. We're gonna spread that out between us. Everyone's happy. In bodybuilding, in natural bodybuilding, there's too much separation. Come together, keep your identity, but why not have, for example, the Natural Olympia? I don't care how it's run. I've heard mixed reviews, I'll be honest. I've heard mixed reviews, but I don't care how it's run. The label alone is worth going to. It's worth doing. So why are we not saying, right, both of us work separately throughout the regular season, but our world championships either funnel into the Natural Olympia or our world championships are the Natural Olympia, and we get all the best guys everywhere. So so your allegiance with, for example, BNBF, stay there all season if you want to. UK DFBA, stay there all season if you want to. You know people, like you said, relationships, you're more comfortable competing there. Maybe the way it's run is suited more to you versus this side. All that stuff, great. Then you go to a neutral like a neutral body at the end of it, where you all compete against each other and share the same prize. That to me just makes sense. Obviously, I'm a business-minded person, but I'm not in a bodybuilding business. So it's difficult for me to say why that can't happen. But to me, it just seems it seems silly to me.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that's why, at least now, I think we're getting somewhere closer to that by the fact of, for example, INBA, PNBA will accept any other pro cards. So, for example, like Meg McEvely, who competed at the INBA, PNBA World Championships, she hasn't got an INBA, PNBA pro card, but she's got a DFAT pro card. So she competed on the back of her DFAT pro status. She is a pro. So I think opportunities like that are great, but that's of course only happening with professional naturals, which is few and far between at this stage in time.
Exactly.
The amateur scene is where really, like, let's be honest, the most people are going to be competing and the most opportunities are potentially going to be created for them then to turn pro. And they're kind of confused. Okay, where do I turn pro? Yeah. What shows should I do? What's going to be the best world championships? You've got three, whatever different world champions at the end of each year. Who is the world champion? Who is the best?
Exactly.
You don't know because so I think I've seen some people start to like eke out ideas that they're kind of invite people to compete on like a level playing field. I'm not sure if you saw like the things from the AMB, the Australian Natural Bodybuilding Federation, where
I've
they're
seen
like
a lot of
pros and they were trying to get people to compete in like one overall pro show all together and trying to actually convince that to happen. But the thing is, because we've formed these quite close-knit friendships and relationships over many decades of natural bodybuilding, the difficulty is removing that attachment to federation or to a certain name or to their friends is very, very difficult. I completely appreciate that. So I think it is going to be more difficult. But the thing is, if we let this keep going, then it's just the same thing repeating itself over many, many decades. So it's like once the current sort of promoters, whatever you want to call it, presidents of each separate federation, once they start to move away from bodybuilding, whoever then takes on that federation is going to be a friend of them, and then a friend of them, and then it's going to keep going that way. So at some point, there has to be potentially some form of, I agree, bit of a merge where, to be honest, everyone's going to benefit. It means that when we get to the end of the season, if we've gone our separate ways, people have gone through different funnels, we all end up at one massive bottom of the funnel, which is better for everyone, because then it's just a better level of competition at that end product. We're producing better pros. Let's say, for example, at that end funnel, top three in their class get professional status. I think that'd be more than fair. I think that'd be more than fair, because the top threes would all be ridiculous. They'd all be so good. And then that produces then perfect pros. And then that produces a really solid pro class, which will then be even better because we've got more people funneled in. It sounds amazing in principle, but I think your way of saying it is probably the best way that I've heard it put as a plan, is that people stay in their own separate funnels, but then they all come into one thing at the bottom end of it.
But again, I am thinking about it, like I said, I'm business orientated, like initially, so I will think of it as a machine before I think of it as a, like, human beings are actually involved in this, because there are egos, there are pride, there is, you know what I mean, like, these are the things in my opinion that are probably stopping things. Now I don't know, I'm not in these meetings, but to me it just seems like a no-brainer on paper. When I look at it as a mechanism, I'm like, that just makes sense. I'm an engineer by trade. That just makes sense to me. To me, it seems to be very simple. You work individually throughout the season. Everyone gets their home comforts. And then towards the end, if you want to be called the be-all and end-all world champ, that's what you get. And even if they did a collaborative pro card to differentiate the pro cards in the regular season to the world champ, so you still get your DFAC, you still get your PNBA, you still get your, does UK DFBA and WNBF still exist in terms of pro cards? Is that
no, UK DFBA funnel straight into INBA, PNBA. That's the only funnel. But then there's of course now WNBF UK, which then W then, so we got like the third now, which just makes things even more confusing.
Exactly. So you
Yeah.
got WNBF Pro card, you got PNBA Pro card, and you got Defect Pro card. Let's just say you get, if you win your respective regional finals, like British finals, for
Yeah.
example, or German finals, European finals, whatever you want to call it, you get
Yeah.
your specific card for that federation, which allows you access into the Natural Olympia, let's say.
Yeah.
But if you win your pro card, if the amateur wins his pro card at the Natural Olympia, call it something else.
Yeah.
Call it a different pro card, so you know there's a difference.
Yeah.
And then that person can compete wherever they want, whenever they want in the regular season, just so that there's some incentive to going out there. To me, that's what makes sense. But
I agree.
I don't know. I'm not involved, and I don't have money in the sport to be pulling them strings. So it is what it is. But yeah. Anyway, that was my gripe. That's my gripe with it. That doesn't seem to be, well, it seems to be going in the right direction, because again, the PNBA are introduced and they are adding some sort of merge, which is again, it's a small step forward. You guys in NBW are obviously doing big things. That's what I was going to say. So you mentioned obviously pros being, especially top level pros, being few and far between. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of what I'm seeing, again, I'm only 28. You're 27.
Yeah.
So we're not old by any means,
No.
but I see that the younger generation have obviously adopted and embraced the new way of bodybuilding, which is social media, exposure, YouTube, this, that, this, that. That's what's going to bring eyes. Yeah? So, like you said, rightfully so, the amateurs is where the investment needs to be. And just for people who don't know, I'm a Defect Pro. So I'm already a pro. So this does not help me, but I just want to help the sport. It helps to invest in the amateur ranks, because those are the guys who are going to have 20,000 subs, then turning pro. Instead of me, who's got 1,700, 1,800, yes, I'm a great athlete, but I'm not bringing eyes to the business side. So the job of the federation is to say, right, we need a great platform that makes Gene want to be here because he's a top level athlete. But for us to build the business, we need these amateurs to be wanting to come here. Like PCA, I only hear good things about how PCA run their show. I obviously, for guys who don't know, PCA is an untested fed, but it's like a grassroots untested fed. It doesn't feed into an IFBB pro card. They have their own like little bubble of pros and that kind of stuff for the guys who don't know. But the show, everyone just says to me, it's like an exhibition. It's like an expo in itself. Yeah. Apparently, it's like a big. It's all glitz and glamour and lights and this and that and advertising. Sometimes you need that at grassroots level for amateurs, because amateurs want to be able to shoot content. Amateurs want to be able to enjoy their day. Some people aren't wired like me or you or whoever, where we're literally laser focused. Like, I need to win today. I don't care what's happening around me. I just want to win. Okay. Some people just want to bodybuild. Yeah. Some people just want to do it because they enjoy it and they want to have a good time on the day and take pictures with their mates. And you know what I mean? So you need that environment where it's not just breeding high level, intense, like competitive energy. That's what I mean. Sometimes some people aren't wired that way. The best will be wired that way, but not everyone wants to be the best. Some people just want to be a part. Yeah. And the people who want to be a part, general population, the reason men's physique do well is they're not the best and most interesting class. They're not the best and most interesting class. The open guys are, or the classic physique guys are coming up now. But there's loads of people who want to do it because it's more attainable. So you're going to get general population coming and do it. That's what builds business. People don't like it, but that's what it is. So the guys like us who are at the top of the sport, trying to be the best, the very best, it's all well and good, but there's not many of us. Yeah, you know what I mean? We're a niche. There's not many of us. So you have to open your arms to the new ever-changing culture in sport in general. You've got NBA players and NFL players and all these guys in America who they're out here making music, they're making albums, they're doing all these things, and you'll get teams retweeting it. I saw the other day a Chelsea graduate, Chelsea Football Club graduate. I can't remember his name now. African descent. I can't remember his name. He plays as I think he's in the under-21s for them. He just released a rap album, and Chelsea retweeted it on their Twitter. Because this is the new school. If he did that 20 years ago, they'd drop him. Yeah. Like, you're not focused on football and blah, 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 blah. If they know now, if he makes great music and he gets 1 million eyes on that, that helps Chelsea Football Club.
It
Because
does.
people who don't care about football suddenly go, oh, he plays professional football, by the way, and then they come over. I just don't think some of these federations are evolving their mindset enough to what
Yeah.
it is now, is my main thing. But again,
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here digging out federation for the next 2 hours. So anyway, right, you as an athlete. So you made a comment. Me and you are different in that respect, which I like because it makes for an interesting conversation. So achieving great things quickly. So I have achieved things that I consider great in a time frame that I consider quick. Yeah.
Yes.
I am still hungry. You've trained with me now. We've trained together. And I enjoyed it massively. And I
Mhm.
always enjoy having people who don't see me train with me, see what my output's like and that kind of thing. Because I feel like I'm a little bit more on camera. I'm always smiling. On camera, I'm always lighthearted. So I don't know if like I'm not gonna play up like I'm hardcore. But
Mhm.
when I train, I train. Yeah.
Yes.
When I
Of
train,
course.
I train. When I come home, I'm not snacking, eating shit. I'm eating my bodybuilding meals. I just don't like to chat shit about it all the time. That's just not who I
Yeah.
am. Some people like to hear it. That's fine. Maybe I need to start putting more content out like that. But
Yeah.
I just, yeah, I'm kind of a laid back person, generally speaking. So I agree with you. I do agree with you. I think there are people who fall into success and they're like, oh, that was easy. And
Yeah.
they either become complacent and then get smoked, or they don't come back because they're like, well, what's the point? I'm just going to win. Yeah. You have a mixture of people. I, on the other hand, I've said this many times on this podcast so far, I am hyper critical of myself. So I will win. And I'm not like, I still look at my pictures from 2021 where I won my pro card and I still just pick it apart. I'm
Yeah.
like, I need more this, I need more that. This needs to be better. This needs to be better. I can't win a pro show if I look that way. Da, 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 da. It doesn't matter. And I just think that's just the way I'm wired. I personally disagree with you. I think if you had become successful immediately, again, I don't know you very, very well, but from the what I get from your energy and from your mindset, I think if you had won early, you would have been just like me. I don't think you
Yeah.
would. I
100%.
think you're
Yeah.
being modest. I think you're being modest. I think you would have 100% committed to the grind. I
Yeah.
think that's shown in your business. I think that's shown in your bodybuilding journey and as an athlete. I think it shows in the fact that you're doing both and you want to do both at a high level. Because you could
Yeah.
just sit back and go, business is great, forget athletics,
Of
forget the
course.
athletic side of it. But you don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it wouldn't have changed much of the sort of the landscape of me moving forwards as a like a coach and an athlete. I just think that it's helped me become a little bit more relatable because I work with a huge amount of people and I work with a huge amount of people that are not going to win straight away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's important to understand how that sometimes feels, especially as a competitor, because
Yeah.
I've been at shows like I said, when I was a teen, and I've been just put at the side and waiting and watching the first call out, waiting and watching the second call out, and then being a third.
Yeah.
Like I've felt exactly what that feels like. And then to be able to then tell people that it's actually possible to go from that to then winning shows and winning overall titles
Yeah.
is a really important tool for me to have as a coach. So no, I don't think it would have changed anything for me as an athlete. If anything, I would have probably just kept building momentum on top of that. Because like for me, I'm very similar to you. Like when I win, I just want to win again.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
then I also want to win better or win by a greater margin,
Yeah.
So it's not like winning then makes you sort of or makes us think that it's just going to happen again. It's just we're going to become complacent. We just want to chase even more. So yeah, no, I agree with you on that front. And like I said, it's probably helped me the most in terms of just being on a similar level with some of my guys and girls that I think also now more than ever, because I've done well in the sport, I've got people that are working with me, and I'm sure it's going to be very similar with yourself as you build your coaching, that they almost feel an element of pressure because they're working with someone that's had great success and they want to also emulate that. Because a lot of people will work with you or work with me because they want to kind of be like us in a way.
Yeah.
And when they don't get that, then they feel like they've kind of undershot,
Yeah.
which for some people is great because then they just want to keep getting better and keep getting
Yeah.
closer, which is brilliant. But then you work with some people that then that creates almost like a very defeatist mindset.
Yeah.
And then coaching that mindset away from being maybe just so purely obsessed with what placing you've got at a show to actually changing it to really being like, these are the first tracking shots you ever sent to me. Look at how fucking far you've come, you know, which is a completely different mindset to kind of pot on things. But yeah.
I definitely agree. And it's a perspective that I don't adopt often because I've won quickly. I don't adopt it when I'm putting it into other people, when I'm trying to be empathetic. When I'm trying to be empathetic, I'm like, okay, but like, so if someone lost, hypothetically, if one of my clients lost and they were like, oh, I'm happy with this fourth place because look how far I've come, I'll be the first one to pat you on your back and be like, listen, you've done fantastic. Now, if somebody comes to me and says, I finished second against someone who's supposed to be the best bodybuilder at the moment in the amateur ranks, and they're like, I think I should have come first, and next time I'm going to come first, I'm more inclined to relate to that because I'm like, yes, losing is a no. Like that's just how my mind is. Second place is nothing to celebrate. That's what I tell myself. That is not, I'm never going to project that on anyone else and make them feel small for not getting first. Because we all have our own individual goals and battles that we have to face with. And like you said, look at where you were here versus what you've got now. That's a win in itself. And it's true. Not everyone could be number one. And that's something that people need to, you know what I mean? But in 2019, my first season, I won the overall the UK DFBA.
I know you did,
and then won the Midlands BMBF, my class. Solomon and Ola beat me overall. And then British finals, won my class again. I've never lost my class. And got beaten the overall by Solomon and Marcus Lee. Now, whenever I speak to people, like, you're undefeated, aren't you? No, I'm not. I've been beaten by Solomon twice. I've been beaten by Marcus once. These are losses to me. If I was undefeated, I'd have a pro card in 2019, and I don't. That's how I see it. So when somebody, but that's how I see it for myself. But if someone came up to me and said, oh, do you know what? I've never lost my class. I didn't get my pro card, but I've never lost. I'll be like, that's fucking fantastic. Like for your respect weight class, you've never been beaten. You know what I mean? That's how it is. That's what I would project. But for me, it's always a different thing. Because I just think you never know how somebody's wired. Well, the reason me and Opio are such good friends, as well as just client and coach, is we're wired the same. We're wired the same. Although he does say to me all the time, he's like, Gene, one day you may lose. And you have to, you know what I mean? It will be good for you to feel what that, like. I'm like, I've lost twice. To me, I've lost twice. That's how it, to me, I've lost twice. And we're on the same page with it because he knows, first of all, he knows I'm hungry and he knows like there's never been an ounce of complacency in me. Never. Not in my business life, not in bodybuilding, not as a husband, nothing. And hopefully not as a father. For the viewers, you can see my shit in the back, baby's coming. Never an ounce of complacency. I'm young now. I'm hungry now. I want to be able to be complacent when I'm done. But for now, this is work and work and work and work and work and work. That's just what it is. But yes, I do think you're right. Clients that we would take on, especially competitive clients. Lifestyle, obviously a little bit different, but competitive clients, they're going to want to emulate what you do. They're going to want to emulate what you do, even if they don't look anything like you, even if, like you say, if you're female clients. Their respective realm of competition, they want to emulate what it is you did. And what you've gone through personally, AJ, is, yes, it's very relatable. It's not just relatable, it's very inspiring. It's very inspiring to say, I've come from this to becoming a pro. Now, I just want to transition, seeing as I've said that. Your pro status. You don't talk about it much. It's not really on your. I saw your post because obviously I followed you for a long time. I saw your post when you won it and all that kind of stuff. But it's not in your bio. You don't really talk about it much. You don't refer to yourself as a pro. Why?
Because I didn't actually accept the pro status. So in the moment of winning that, obviously, you know, making a post and saying that I won my pro card was fantastic, and that was my kind of like my goal, you know, 100%. I'd achieved my goal, and my next sort of thought was like, okay, I'm going to compete as a pro. That's what I do next. And then I kind of came away from that season and let things settle and calm down, and you know, especially with like COVID and everything that happened, it was like quite a kind of blurry time period. I hopped on a few calls with some people I really respect, you know, especially like Lee and Ben. And I just sort of had a like thought about what actually like what are actually my goals in bodybuilding. You know, what did I actually want to achieve out of that season? What I actually wanted to achieve out of that season was not winning a European title and then getting a pro card. What I actually wanted to achieve was winning the UK finals, and I didn't achieve that. So with the way that basically like your sort of pro status works, it's actually a bit of an interesting one that I actually have mixed opinions on, and it sounds very rich coming from me, but it's true. Is that you are not a pro until you compete as a pro. So you could win 12 pro cards and never accept them. You could win 20 pro cards and never accept them. And there's actually been people that have won 15 plus pro cards and never competed as a pro. And there's many different reasons behind that. Some of them financial, some of them, etc., which they can talk for themselves about those things. Because I've talked to those people and been like, what's going on? You're definitely pro standard. Like, why are you not? And then they explain why, but they can talk for themselves on that front. So then, you know, coming into 2021, I knew that I didn't present a physique that it was good. It was definitely improved since I was a junior. There was a lot more muscle, etc. That was good, but it wasn't me. It wasn't as good as I knew I could be. So I knew coming back in 21 with the conditioning that I knew that I could bring to stage, with maybe a little bit of improvements in muscularity from a short off season. I knew that was going to be what I wanted to do. So then I competed again as an amateur, obviously won the UK, won the UK overall, so to speak. Still got beaten by a guy in the main overall, which is the only thing that really matters, to be honest. And then obviously went to compete at like the Worlds and the Olympia. And then as I competed throughout that season, again, just like what came to life for me is that, and I even said this to you very recently, is that I just didn't, at that point, definitely, maybe a little bit more now, I believe, but at that point, I definitely didn't believe that I was actually even going to be competitive as a pro, you know, especially from a muscularity standpoint. It just wasn't quite there yet. You know, maturity wise and the condition that I can get into, great. It's probably comparable to some pros. It would probably land me if in a deep lineup with some PNBA pros that, you know, maybe have earned their pro cards in America or something like that. I hate seeing that, but it's true. Like the quality is lower. I would, you know, maybe place higher, but I'm not going to be standing up against a Mitch or a Ben Howard or, you know, a Ben Lloyd and be competitive yet. I just need more time and more muscle. So that was the main reason for sort of like not accepting that particular pro status. But you know, when I next compete, which is most likely going to be next year, like the main goal of that season will be to get my pro status and be at a level which will be 4 years after I first got it, be at a level where I can then be, you know, standing in a pro lineup and kind of belong in there a little bit more, which I think is the right way to kind of do it. But that kind of brings me back around to my point. Do I agree that you can kind of just choose when you take it? I kind of no, to be honest, because I think in that situation, I shouldn't have been, to be honest, in my opinion, I shouldn't have been given it.
Right.
I should have had to win the overall, and I didn't. I got beaten by a guy called Eric Toff, who's won loads of overalls at the Europeans. He's won multiple different pro cards. But then again, you have that problem of like, you're an amateur and people who have already earned their pro cards keep turning up and beating you. So for example, then when I was at the Olympia, the two people ahead of me, and if you kind of include me, you can include me, the top three were then already people that had got like pro status at that amateur Olympia. So I think there definitely needs to be a notion towards either kind of forcing it down people's necks that they, once they get one, that's it, you're a pro, you take it. Because I don't think there's, in like, for example, in Defect, there's no confusion. When you win your pro card, you win your pro card. And it's not like an option, you just take it. And that's also because when you earn it, you've absolutely earned it. So if I was, and I'm confident that that's the same way it kind of works when the UK had UK IFBB, when you won the overall, you get a WMBF pro card. And that's what I grew up watching when I was a junior and a teen, is that everyone that won a Defect pro card was a pro. And then everyone that won a UK IFBB overall was a pro. And that's like, in my opinion, the way that it should work. So like I said, when I came back away from that season, I was like, that doesn't sit well with me that I haven't done what I should have done to get what I have ended up getting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of I guess, a long formed explanation as to why I still will, and even next year I will still compete as an amateur.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it because I agree with you, and I have become accustomed to. Again, it's easy for me to sit here as a Defect Pro and say this and be all high and mighty. That's not really what it's about. Like I said, in 2019, I got beat by two phenomenal athletes, and when I say I thought I should have won, I don't mean the decisions were wrong. They were better bodybuilders than me, 100%. But I mean, I wanted to win. Like I left that stage upset. Not upset, but frustrated in myself that I wasn't good enough to win. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like if they had given me a pro card that day as the third guy and said, you know what, we don't usually do this, but you'll have one. I'd have been like, nah, I don't want that. I want to be number one.
Exactly.
And again, 2021, there was no dispute. But when you bring in because if you say it how, this is where my dispute is. Because if you're allowed to turn it down, like you said rightfully, you're going against guys who are pros because they have won and turned down their pro cards.
Yeah.
So for you to say, well, I shouldn't really got mine because I got beat by these guys. These guys were pros 4 years ago, hypothetically. Yeah. Now, if DFAC did the same thing, if DFAC did the same thing, and I go for my overall and I get beat in the overall by Nathan Williams, Dave K, and fucking... No, I'm just going to leave it there.
You just pack your bags and go home.
I'll be like, that's not fair, is it? You know what I mean? I'm an amateur. I've been doing this at the time 5 years. I've been doing this 5 years. That's not fair. Like, tell them to take their pro card and piss off. Like, you know what I mean? So it's difficult to say that because who's to say, you know what I mean? Like, if that's what we're doing, IFBB have it wrong. Because look how many IFBB pros they have, and look how many that turn up to Olympia and actually are competitive. Exactly. About 12. Yeah. Let's just be honest. There are guys in the Olympia and the Opens. If they take 20 guys, there are 10 guys who are never going to win the Open Olympia. The fact that Derek Lunsford can come from 212, turn up and finish second in his first year, tells you that this is at least at that level, at that very, very elite level, where there's thinner margins because no one's brand new to the sport. So the growth is small and the changes are smaller. Like, let's be real. If you're in the top, if you're 18th and you're 32 years old and you're 18th at the Olympia, Ronnie Coleman is the only one that I'm aware of who has come from being 15th to 12th to first. He's the only one I've known. Like, and then he ended up being the greatest ever. That's an anomaly. Yeah. But generally speaking, that's not the trend. That's not the trend. Yeah. So if that's how PNBA are going to do things, I think there are going to be a lot of unfulfilled professional athletes there thinking, well, do I belong here? You're 27 years old. Another thing that I like to consider, again, both guys that I said, Nathan Williams and Dave K. Dave's like 40, I think, close to 40. Nathan is, I want to say like 32, 33.
Something around that region. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 or 5 years older than me. Yeah. They've been training. Dave's probably been training 4 times the time I have, and Nathan's probably been training 3 times the time I have. Like, I've only been training since I was 22 years old. Like, for me to sit here and be like, nah, I don't deserve it because I got beat by these guys. Nah, things need context. Sometimes things aren't always black and white. And again, when I saw you last at Ultra Flex, in my opinion, you've got pro physique. If a natural turns up and beats you, they're pro caliber. You see, like you talk about Flex beating you. For the guys who don't know, Liam Paul, Red and Base, coached by Opio. Flex or Flex Luger on Instagram. Hopefully I should have him on there soon, by the way. You got beat by Flex, but there's a vindication in there because he turned Defect Pro.
Yeah.
So,
and when I was in the audience, it was a completely different feeling.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, okay, I got beat by that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
To stand next to him, somewhat. Obviously, I still wanted to be him, but then I'm viewing myself standing next to him. I'm like, man, if I was able to stand next to him, that's pretty cool because it was 100%. Mighty improved when he came back, but still, like he's such a good bodybuilder, you know. And then that actually in that moment, I was even saying to Loz, I was like, actually started to make me feel almost better.
Yes,
because when you see it from an audience standpoint, you see how strong someone actually is.
Yes,
it's a completely different perspective.
This is how I felt when Solomon won. Solomon won, and he won I think he told me he won like 8 shows that year.
Yeah.
In all sorts of federations,
He was
PCA.
great that year, like
Oh, he was
2019. He was so good.
fantastic. He
Yeah.
was just nailed on all
Yeah.
year. And
Yeah.
then Ben Lloyd goes and beats him. Like, does yeah, I can go on and go on and go on and ramble. Basically, what I'm saying is Liam vindicated that by turning Defect Pro. He was pro caliber. When Chris McCready beat Liam in 2020, Chris was pro caliber, then went immediately and won a pro show.
Yeah.
Liam would have been next up. In theory, you were next up because Liam was ahead of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's in my opinion, that's three pro caliber physiques, but only one can go. That's just how life is sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I got beat by Solomon, I got beat by Marcus. Solomon and Marcus both turned pro. I got beat by pro caliber physiques. As far as I'm concerned, in 2019, I was pro caliber. My first year, I was pro caliber. That's what I tell myself. So in 2021, 100%. With my improvements, I walked in there going, of course it's mine. Of course I'm getting it because I could have got it in 2019. That's just how I am. Yeah. So you turn up, you get it. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting there thinking. Again, Ben Lloyd has finished behind Dave twice. Is that to say that he doesn't belong as a pro? No, you get beat by people, but there's a clear separation of caliber. There are a bunch of amateurs that I can pick you, AJ, that have won their class that can't stand next to you. It will be night and day. They're not pro caliber yet. Yes, you can be a competitive and good amateur, but you're not pro caliber yet. There's a clear step. And what I would like to start seeing, because I don't see it often in terms of guys who are turning pro that don't really belong, but I would like to start seeing conditional pro cards because I'll be real. I've seen some pros, DFAX and UKDFBA. I've seen older pros. I'm like, in today's game, mate, you couldn't stand next to me. I'll tell you that right now. There's no way. There's no way. So I would like there to be a point where they're like, right, I know you've won, but you might have to go to the Worlds to earn it because here you're just not the caliber we want.
Not gonna happen. Yeah.
And I know it's tough, and I know it's hard for a promoter to say to somebody, but sometimes I think it needs to come down to that because I've seen guys turn that should not turn. But you're not one of them. In my opinion, you're vindicated by the guys you got beat are pro caliber. The guys you got beat by are pro caliber. So you've been beaten by pros. Does that mean you're going to be again, in theory, you would have been a lineup of 10 guys in pro lineup. You would have been somewhere between 7th and 5th.
Yeah, we agree.
That's a competitive pro to me. Top 5 is competitive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Listen, that's just me. I ain't trying to, you know what I mean? I'm trying to pump you up. Your motivation, you got enough self-motivation. I know that about you. You're fine.
It's nice you'll be fine.
Yeah. Listen, I just think sometimes we need perspective because I think those of us who are hyper competitive are also hypercritical of ourselves. And again,
100%.
I'll say it again for the 10th time. I'm so hypercritical of myself. Not to the point where I beat myself and I don't think I'm good. Like you're going to hear a lot of contrasting comments from me. 1 minute, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. And the next minute, I only see my flaws.
Yeah.
But like, it's in the context of it's in context. It's like against the top pros. And in my opinion, Dave and Nate. For the DFAC, obviously, I'm talking. Dave and Nate, for me, and Ben Lloyd. Those three who have been there, proven it time and time again, that they're up there. Yep. They're the guys that I'm like, right, Gene, that needs to be better. That needs to be better. That needs to be better. If you're talking about amateurs, it's like I can turn up not in shape and probably win. You know what I mean? That's a different conversation. But when I'm talking my level, which is when it's only fair, my level of competitor, I'm just not. There's things that need to be better for me to get there. And I just think we just need to put things in perspective. So your goal for next year then, competitive goal for next year. What is it? So you're going to go back as an amateur and you want to earn your PMBA again?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That'll be the goal. The main goal being if I get the pro card out of doing this, great. But the main goal is to win the absolute whole show of the UK FBA. That's the main goal. Because as a previous British champion, you can go straight through to the finals. I'm pretty sure it's the same rule in BNBF.
Yeah.
So that'll be exactly what I do. I don't need to do any other shows. I don't need to do a warm up. I know how to get ready for a show and I know how to peak. So to me, a warm-up's a waste of a weekend when I could be training and sleeping as normal.
Agreed.
So just go straight in and turn up and do the do. So that's the goal for next year. And then if that leads on to like, a universe or an Olympia or whatever it is, to comment on the Olympia, I think that it's just potentially just in the wrong location. I mean, it's amazing being in Vegas, but the amount of money that it costs to actually get a venue that they can then house people in the right way, where people can spectate and watch and move around the show well, it's very, very difficult. So they're already, probably spending a huge amount of money on this venue that just perhaps maybe isn't as good as it needs to be for like actually being able to watch the show, because that's the problem. It's like a flat seated area, so if you're at the back, you can't see anything. And then because it's like a ballroom thing, it's like the lighting's not amazing, so it's like you travel all the way out there, and it to me, being in an auditorium for a show is the gold standard. That's where it should be, like a theater, an auditorium. Like Manchester Central, is an amazing venue, tiered seating. I was all the way back in the middle of the venue, and I could see perfectly. I could see everything with the live stream, everything. Whereas, if I was trying to do a live stream at Olympia, unless I was at the front for 1 or 2 rows, I wouldn't be able to see shit. So, whatever it leads to, I just want to make sure that I get that first show nailed. That's the main priority for me. And if it, like I said, if it means that I get a pro card there, great. And then I'll probably have to think about what I do next in terms of competing as a pro. Think for me, turning pro is actually, I was having a conversation with Loz about this the other day. It's actually going to be quite an important thing in the long run for me as a coach, because it really limits then my chances of running it into clients that are also maybe looking for the same goals as me, because I'm then coaching a lot of people right now that want to also win the same exact titles that I want to win, which is a difficult thing to try and manage. When you turn pro, and let's say, for example, then I'm competing in the same classes, like Adam or, Ben Lloyd or something like that. I'm in my like rookie years of that. Adam's in his rookie years of that. Ben Lloyd's in his like top tier years of that. So we're at all different levels, and we can have all different expectations. For Adam, for the next few years, it's going to be nice expectation, no pressure. Let's just see how we get along. For Ben, there's an element of pressure, which is fine. He needs that pressure because he's got potential to do extremely well. So it's like different levels of the game. But when you're amateur and then you've got someone that also wants to win a British title, and they arguably deserve to win a British title with the amount of work that they've put in, it's a difficult one. So I'd like to be able to compete as a pro long term, because it also frees up that kind of side of things a little bit for me, stress wise.
I don't envy your situation, because Opio's in the same situation. Obviously, he's a Defect Pro, I'm a Defect Pro, and Liam's a Defect Pro. And at the moment, we're all on off season. So technically speaking, next year lines up perfectly for all of us. So we could all 3 of us stand on stage together on the same, like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I don't envy him at all. I've actually spoken to him about it briefly, because I didn't want to dwell on it too much and maybe get him stressed about something he may not have thought about yet. But I said to him, like, what are we going to do if if all 3 of us have to, because we're all, Opio is best because his last showing as a pro, his debut as a pro, was not Opio. I've seen Opio at Opio level, and it's a different level. That's one. Again, I might as well just stick Dave's, Nathan's, and Opio's faces on the wall in the gym when I train, because in my head, that's all I think about. I need, if I'm better than these guys, I win. There's no like, if I'm better than these 3, I win. I know that. So I just need to train to get to that level. That's how I am. So I'm speaking, and I'm like, that must be tough, because Opio's like, right, I need to beat these guys, but these guys need to do their best because they're my client. And we're all high level, if I do say so myself. So it's tough for him. I don't envy him whatsoever. So I feel exactly what you mean with that. You've obviously got guys who, again, Adam's very talented. I've never seen Adam in the flesh, but Adam from Instagram, at least, he's a talented guy. And how old is he?
24, 25. He just came out of the juniors. He competed in the juniors in 21. So I think he might be 25 now. Yeah.
Talented guy.
Very
talented.
talented,
I reckon
100%, huge
by
potential.
yeah, by the time he's my age, well, our age-ish, oh mate, he's gonna be a big deal. I think it's gonna be a big deal.
100%, 100%.
Big deal. So yeah, man, you've got great clients on board. You've got big goals for yourself. Listen, like I said, I don't envy you. It's a good business. It's a good position to be in because if you fall short as an athlete, touch wood, that does not happen. If you fall short as an athlete, you gain as a business. If you gain as a business, sorry, if you fall short as a business in terms of client expectations, chances are you're the one who succeeded as an athlete. So
Yeah,
it's a win-lose-win situation. But listen, life is like that sometimes. Not everyone gets what they want, and I think it's about perspective of your athletes. If I
agreed.
had a client who just turned DFAC, they're 22 years old, freshly muscled, that kind of stuff, and me and my 28-year-old ass turn up on the stage, big and shredded, and you lose and you're upset, I'll be like, mate, I've been doing this significantly longer than you. Like, not to say you shouldn't expect to win,
Yeah,
but you're not a failure because you didn't. There's, you know what I mean?
agreed.
Things just need to be put into perspective, I think, a little bit. But it is
Absolutely.
tough. It is tough. It's easier said than done because you don't really know how people are wired. I'm
Yeah,
wired to be number one all the time. I want gold.
yeah,
That's what I want. So Opio trying to tell me that silver is okay is going to be a tough conversation for him. You know what I mean? It just
100%.
it just is what it is. It is what it is. Cool. So let's move on to like personal interests you may have. I know you've mentioned F1 now. I know on from your Instagram, I've heard you mention this a while ago now, but I've heard you mention like cars and I want to say you bought your dad a car.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it was like a not antique car, but like a classic car.
Catering. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So is that something that you have interest in as like a hobby on the side, or is it just literally just I like to drive nice cars? Like what are you kind of into in your personal time?
Yeah, so I definitely still follow a lot of motorsport. To be honest, I use it as my third space because I think having a third space is extremely important. Like,
Yes.
so I'm obviously like me as an athlete is probably like my first space, to be honest. The second space is like everything business wise, and then third space is just motorsport. So I consume a lot of motorsport relative content. I like cars. I follow a lot of like car pages and things like that. I recently it's been a long-term thing for me that I've wanted to do for a while. I don't get a lot of time to do it, but I do it on rest days and things like that. So I basically purchased a sim racing rig. So
Right.
I do a decent amount of racing, which is the only thing that completely removes me from thinking about anything to do with bodybuilding. Because when I'm watching anything on Netflix or I watch motorsport on TV, I can't stop thinking about this person who's doing this show or
Yeah.
how did that peak go? Could that peak go better? Or I've got to do this tomorrow, or I've got to do that, I've got to do that. But I need deep focus to switch off, which is
Yes.
weird because a lot of people don't need deep focus to switch off, but I have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm thinking about bodybuilding still.
Yeah.
So for me, sim racing does that because sim racing is actually like highly competitive and very, very difficult.
Yes.
So to get good, you have to be very, very focused and try and learn a bit about it as well. So like I said, I don't get a huge amount of time to do it, but when I do, I love it. So yeah, I got a rig at home and I do that a fair bit. But other than that, that's literally it. Like most of my days just look like wake up, coach, train, come back, coach, sleep, go again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then of course alongside that, it's just like just keeping social media updated. But I think a lot of people think that as someone who's got a lot of followers on Instagram or someone that posts frequently on Instagram that I spend a lot of time on there, which is very incorrect. I set a 30-minute timer on Instagram, and if I go over that, I'm kind of completely off it after that.
Yeah.
So I go on, I share anything that my clients have tagged me in, I post my stuff for the day, and I catch up with the MBW page, and then I'm off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if I stay on, it's a rabbit hole that I could be using to do something actually productive.
Yeah.
So like for me, that is wasting time.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I try and just don't get me wrong, like I'm not perfect by any means. There's days where I definitely spend more than half an hour on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I try my best to not just waste away time where I could either be, switching off or I could be doing something that's actually is productive towards one of the businesses that I'm running. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
No, it's good. I like it. I didn't expect you to even have that much time to yourself, considering all the things I see you involved in. I'm one of those people who would have believed that you were on social media significantly more, not even just scrolling, just
Yeah.
a mixture of things. Social media
Posting.
research, which I've started doing a lot, just
Yeah.
watching the things that I like. Why do I like them? Can I make content that where that's relevant to what I'm going to put out? Because one thing I don't like doing, listen, doing trends and stuff is fine. My personality, I'm not very I don't know. I don't know. I'm friendly, I'm lighthearted, all this kind of stuff, but I'm not very playful, would be the word. So
Of
there are
course.
some trends that are a little bit more playful, and I'm like, that just isn't me, and I'm not gonna do it to get clicks. I'm just not gonna do that. I'm
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
not incredibly hardcore. So like Machiavelli videos and stuff.
Yeah.
I love watching them.
Yeah.
I love watching them.
Yeah.
In the gym, don't get me wrong. Like candid, yes. If someone just happened to be there with a camera and you just got me talking, which I put one out recently and I was talking about, what was I talking about? Basically, almost kind of like believing in yourself and not doubting yourself
I
to make
saw
other
it. Yeah, it
people
was
feel
good.
comfortable.
Yeah.
That was me and my friend who's not even really a gym goer. He said, I want to come train with you. And he runs a YouTube channel. I think he's got like 130,000 subscribers or something stupid. He does like
Sick.
these street interview stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like one of the first people to start doing it in the UK, and that's why it caught on so quickly for him. And then he
Sick.
jumped off it for years because he just wasn't really into it, and now he's coming back on it slowly. He just said,
Yeah.
"Listen, I want to kickstart my content. Let me come and train with you for a little bit." And I was like, "Yeah, cool." So you got some candids, and that's how
Mm.
I am in the gym. If you're talking
Yep.
to me, it's highly motivational shit coming out of my mouth because that's the mindset I'm in. But in
Of
my
course.
daytime, like day-to-day life,
Sure.
I more or less just chat shit and make jokes. That's
Yeah.
just how I am. I'm not very playful, but I'm also not very serious as a person. So when
Of
I see
course.
these Machiavelli videos, I'm like, I would love to be in one, but it cannot be staged because you're not going to get much out of me if it is. This is
Agreed.
why I like shooting with the videographer I shoot with because he obviously trains as well. So he has an understanding of when to shoot, what to capture, what not to capture, what's important, what's not important. And I start talking to him just randomly, and the camera's on already. And I'm not talking because I know the camera's on, I'm just talking. So the things that I
Yeah.
would genuinely say come out. And I'm like, oh, that's good. I'll use that. But if it's not useful to me, then yeah, I won't do it. Yeah, if it's not useful to me, I won't use it. But yeah, social media, I assumed you'd be on there more often, just researching this, researching that. But again, you don't need to. Your content's engaging enough, and obviously it serves its purpose towards your businesses. So yeah, you pretty much got social media down pat. Do you have any social media goals in terms of like not necessarily just followers, but like engagement? Do you kind of sit there and be like, right, my engagement this month was different from last month. I need to make sure that I'm on this type of content, or this got the most views, this got the most likes. Do you think about it that much, or is it kind of just what I put out, people like, I'll continue doing what I'll do, and people will like it or they won't?
I follow trends. I follow trends in terms of like what just works for me.
Yeah,
And if I notice some things working well for other people, then maybe I'll try that as well.
yeah.
So there was a phase where, reels were getting really good traction and a lot of people started pumping out more of those and they were hitting more up in the algorithm. So therefore we just posted out more of those. And then there's, periods times now where I feel like actually carousel posts are doing well. So I'm doing as many of them as possible. So
Mhm.
it's just like trying to follow what ends up giving you the best outcomes.
Yeah,
And that's not always just likes. It's like story reshares, reach.
yeah,
It's, whether you get a good amount of new interaction and followers or comments on it. And, yeah, I think I do follow trends for sure, but I'm not overly analytical because I think one of the most important things with socials is that when you post, you're actually enjoying posting and you
yes,
knowing that you're putting out something you actually want to put out.
yeah,
And if you put yourselves in the shoes of your followers, you're looking forward to seeing that piece of content.
yeah,
So I'll never post something that I think, you know what, I think this is shit. I just won't post it.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm quite picky as well. Like obviously I have a videographer for the MBW stuff and he's amazing, but every time we'll shoot, there'll be so much content, like so many reels, so many different things. And I'm like, okay, I only like these 3 out of the 35 that we've got
Yeah, yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
picky about the way I say things or the way that other people say things in a way that I
Yes.
just want stuff that's quite easy to understand and that also represents that person well. Because when we first brought on athletes, I felt like there was maybe some pressure to like
Yeah.
do well with the reels and engage with people, and it kind of brought people away from just being them. So I just said to people, I'm like, look, just train, just tell people how you train, and we don't have to try and create these scripted reels that will get crazy engagement, because that's not what that engagement is going to be rubbish anyway, because we're just going to attract people that really aren't going to be interested in the actual site. Because the actual site is quality information, not just a algorithm real stuff. So yeah, but don't look into it too much, basically.
No, I'm glad you said that, because I'm the same. When I make something and to post it, like I try to be frequent. So my general rule is twice a week minimum. If I post on Instagram twice a week minimum, YouTube's once a week minimum. Again, I've got a lot going on. Not too much to focus on social media, but I like to balance my life of my missus and my athletic side and my coaching side now with my business day-to-day 9 to 5, 6 to 6 side. That's the kind of balance I'd like to try and strike. So when I make my posts, like I've got a post pending in my drafts now, which I'll probably post tomorrow, then this will be posted later in the week. I've been having issues trying to export these, actually. They're annoying me recently. But I'll try and get this out probably like Thursday, because Ben's was late. So I like to do them every Tuesday, but Ben's, because it wasn't exporting, it came out late. It was very annoying. Anyway, but yeah, I've got posts coming out on like Monday or Tuesday, and I'm really excited to post that. I don't really care what engagement it gets. I like it, so I'm going to post it. That's just kind of how I am. And yeah, I'm glad you said that. But being natural on camera is a big thing. And it's one thing I'm learning, having people on here. Obviously, we spoke for quite a bit before I pressed record. And I do that to help people relax. Because obviously there are a lot of people who are not as confident on camera to just discuss things and say what they want to say. So I'm like, yeah, let me get these persons to relax first. And I'm like, you are fine, obviously. And most people I get are fine. But sometimes people are like, I'm not so confident. So I understand basically that the guys who you got on MBW are obviously going to be a little nervous before they kind of just went, you know what, I'm just going to be me, and whatever happens, happens kind of thing.
Exactly.
I think sometimes you can be too sometimes when you're trying to explain things to people about in the gym, I think because you're trying to be different to what other people have already said, you're trying to be a little bit more scientific about things. I just don't think it's necessary. Like, I try not to fall into that.
It's like a forced thing. Yeah.
It is a forced thing. Sometimes if that's how you operate, that's how you operate, and it'll come naturally. For me, I understand the science of most of what I say, but I don't explain it that way. I explain it in layman's terms, how somebody who doesn't know what I'm saying will understand.
That's more of a skill. That's more of a skill. To be able to explain things in layman's terms is more than a skill than just being a parrot, just repeating stuff that other people have said on socials, which is
proves
what most of social media is.
Exactly. It proves you know what you're talking about. If you can explain it on many different levels, you understand the fundamentals and the elements that form that idea. If that's not what you're doing, then you don't really understand what's being said. If I tell you what are macronutrients, you can't explain it.
Yeah.
Okay, you explain it in you understand it to a very shallow depth. You don't really understand what I'm talking about, which is fine. But then going on social media and splurting it like you're an expert, not so great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keep that to yourself. But anyway, that's just me. Cool. So we'll wrap up soon, because I don't want to take too much of your time. What have I missed out on talking about that I want to talk about? Not much. Is there anything you want to discuss? Is there anything you want to talk about, bring up before we sign off?
I think this has been great, man. Like, honestly, I think that it's just been nice to have a pretty free-flowing conversation about stuff that I actually have never, ever talked about on a podcast, at least most of it. And that's what I think is just good about hooking up with yourself, is because we are very, very like-minded, but we also had a few of these kind of discussions when we were training. And it's just nice to get them out there, because I think there are, like we were talking about at the start, there are things that can be done that will only improve what we love over the long run. So, hopefully in 5-10 years, we can both sit down and look back at this podcast and think, things have stepped forwards even more, which would be lovely. But at the end of the day, I think to preface and sort of like cap off this, I think everything we talked about in that sort of start bit is like, both of us, none of it is saying that, it is bad or that loads of things need to change. It's like, we massively respect the work and the dedication that everyone that, runs natural bodybuilding feds and promotes the sport does. That's, I can't even I can't even understand how much work goes in, because it's ridiculous. So that's not us sort of disrespecting that. It's merely just as athletes, and also as coaches and people that are involved in the sport on a daily basis, voicing what we think could be really, really good in the long-term future. But right now it's still pretty damn good. So
yeah, of course, it's still great, and it's still an enjoyable thing to be a part of. Obviously, they've got high level athletes coming and wanting to be there. They're doing great, but things can always be better. And I'm relentless in my own goals. I want to be relentless with the federations that I represent. When people say, gee, what's DFAC? I want to be able to say, it's this fucking great machine over here doing all this great stuff.
Come across.
Exactly. That's what we want. That's what we want. But again, thank you for capping that off. I don't want to ramble on too much longer. This is why I've structured the podcast the way I've structured the podcast. There are things I've watched you on podcasts. I've watched Keefe on podcasts. I've watched other guys on podcasts, high profile guys on social media within our sport. It's an interview, which is fine, because that's how they set their podcasts. One thing with me, I'm laid back. I just want to chat and get people's personality out. I'm not forcing anyone to say anything that they want to say. I don't want to bring up anything and pry into people's personal lives who don't want to talk about it, and I don't want to bring up uncomfortable situations so I can get the next new bit of information out of this person. That's not what this is about. This is about having a conversation with peers. Yeah, in far as I'm concerned, you're a pro athlete. Yeah, you're a pro bodybuilder. We're a couple of pro bodybuilders who were amateurs, who fought through the ranks in different ways with different experiences and blah 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 blah. I'm a high level athlete. You're a high level athlete. You're a high businessman. I'm within the sport specifically. I'm a decent businessman. Within the sport, I'm growing. I'm new. I'm growing. I need to, you know what I mean? I need to build these things as I go. These are conversations that can be had like if we were sitting in a pub with no camera on. These are things that I just feel like people's personalities not coming out enough in their content. Too much stage parroting and too much, oh yeah, I want to know this specific thing out of you, and then that's it. It's like, no, I just want to chat with people and see what they're about, see how they're wired. I think as much as it's entertaining, like you said, it's good to be able to discuss things that people don't know. There's so much about my journey people just don't know. And one day, gradually through these podcasts, it will come out. But they're not about me for right now. So, you know what I mean? I'm going to keep myself to myself. But as things go, that's what it's about. It's about what have you been through that people don't know, that you can say on here, that you're comfortable to say on here, that the person you're talking to in me might understand, because we're the same. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what the book... I'm glad you said that anyway, because again, another compliment that I've been getting a lot of, which I like, is the content. The content's good. I don't have the following yet. The following will come. I don't do it for that. I do it so that the people that do care enjoy, and the people that don't know yet will enjoy when they find it. That's what I'm about. That's what I'm about. So anyway, thank you very much, AJ. I know you're a busy man. We will link up again soon. I do want to, after my hernia surgery and the baby comes, I will be shooting back up to Sheffield to my father-in-law's anyway, so that he can see the baby and that kind of stuff.
Of course.
So I'll definitely be shooting back across to Rotherham. So whenever I'm up and around, again, I'll give you a shout, let you know dates and stuff, and see if we can link up. If not, we'll just see each other, I'm sure, and it'll be cool. But
please do.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. I don't really do all of that. All that stuff. If you liked it, there'll be more. This will be out. This will probably be out. Oh yeah, these won't know anyway. It'll be out later in the week anyway. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. See you guys later.